thing. Even though my parents were really tough on me as a kid, I understand why. We had a very big like survival in a sense of financial stability. At that time, right, to give you more context, back then, I wouldn't say we were fucking buttfuck poor, but we were struggling more so. And not only were we struggling, the economy of the country was also struggling. And we had a lot of riots at that time. It was very violent, okay? People with my, race was somewhat discriminated upon in a very violent way. So it was quite hard to survive through it. That's why sometimes my dad learned how to do things his way. That's why I get why they were so strict and very like paranoid, right, with me. Yeah, growing up, I still appreciate it because during some times, I remember I watched, this is the first time I was hanging out with a bunch of like the cousins and stuff, and we watched Home Alone for the first time. And I remember I was like, wow, I really like Home Alone. It was very Christmassy. We've never celebrated Christmas before. So we've never had a Christmas tree until I was quite older. And then we never really celebrated Christmas. But I remember because I watched Home Alone, I really, really wanted to experience Christmas. So I told my parents, I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait for Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And during Christmas night, I woke up and my dad bought presents. And he was like, oh, look what Santa gave you and shit like that. Even though I knew Santa wasn't real, but it was still nice to pretend. My dad's like, look what Santa bought you. And he gave me like 12 boxes of wrapped presents. Like some were wrapped in newspaper, some were wrapped in magazine paper, some were wrapped in actual wrapping paper. But he gave me like so many things, right? Like 12 things. But then when you open it, he basically bought a gift pack, like a snacked gift pack that was like $5. You know when like you buy a box of candy and you get tiny little packets of candy? He would take each candy and wrap it separately. And so it looks like I got so many presents. So my dad was like, look, Michi, you did such a good job. Santa gave you so many presents because, you know, he was saving this up for this year. And I remembered I was so fucking happy. And then just opening it made me feel so good. Even though I know that it was from one like gift box. I opened one pack and it's like a tiny pack of candy. I opened the other one, it's the same tiny pack of candy. I opened the other one, it's like half. We had, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a local snack, but imagine the Kinder Egg, right? So you can open a Kinder Egg and like half of it is a toy and the other half is the food. So I opened one and I found half a Kinder Egg, or like the Indonesian version of the Kinder Egg. And then I opened the other one and it's the toy. And then, yeah, that was how the gift was. It wasn't like expensive or extravagant, but it meant a lot to me. Until today, I still remember it. That was my first ever Christmas gifts. And I really just enjoyed like opening the presents and being like, oh my god, I love this candy. And I opened one and it's like a juice box and shit. I remember my dad even like, I opened the juice box and there was no straw. And my dad's like, oh, here is your extra present. And then he gave me the straw for the juice box. And I'm like, no way! I'm getting showered by gifts. It was sweet, okay? He did what he could. And it meant a lot. Ever since that, now you understand why my love language is gift receiving. A lot of people like to say it's like, oh, if your love language is gift receiving, you like, you are money hungry. But it's not true. It's the sentimental meaning behind it. You know, the fact that you went out of your way and then did something like this, it meant a lot. Please bring your dad on stream. I'm trying to convince him to go on stream, but he's like reluctant. He's shy. But he wants to, but he's like, oh, I don't know. What if... Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to convince him at the moment. Yeah, it's like simple gifts. But the fact that my dad tried, you know? And like, even though it's not wrapped pretty... Like, it's wrapped with, like, our newspaper and random torn pages of the magazine and stuff. The fact that, like, I know he stayed up nights to wrap that shit. And that meant a lot. It's like, I told you this, and he works from, like, morning till night, right? So, when does he have time to wrap every single one? And he wrapped it quite neatly, I think. Like, he wrapped every single one. He took time for that. And like, he made it into a whole charade thing. You know, he was like, oh, Michi, look what Santa gave. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute, Santa just told me here is another gift. And it's just a straw for my juice box. Or he's like, oh, Santa told me that you've been an extra good one, so I got you another one. And it's just half of a Kinder Egg. So it's like, it's very sweet, you know? I have good childhood memories too, where it's like, yes, we didn't have a lot, but during those days, I genuinely felt like the richest person in the world. You know, as a kid, getting to open 12 presents felt like you were like the richest person in the world. And I remember the next day, I went to school and I was bragging about it. I was like, actually, my family bought me 12 gifts. Your dad gave you one? My dad gave me 12. But I didn't tell them what it was. It doesn't matter. And that's why. Now you understand why, like, yes, I did go through some shit with my parents, but I know by the end of the day, they're just trying their best, you know? Yeah, my dad yaps. I am very similar to my dad. So he's like, oh, Michi, I'm gonna be honest with you. What if I go to your stream and I just dox our address? And I'm like, just don't do that. And he's like, you know, what if, I don't know, what if I get too excited and I say too many things? Just tell him you treat us like a scam. He'll know exactly what to say. Oh, you know now? Every time I talk to him, he's like, he would joke. Like, every time I say something, he's like, oh, wow, Michi, that's so impressive. Look, ta-dang, 100 gifted. He would say that every now and then. He's like, oh, Michi, I'm so proud of you. Here, ta-dang, 100 gifted. He doesn't know what it means. He just knows. The way I tell him is gifted means money, but he doesn't really understand how it works. So he thinks 100 gifted is just $100, I suppose. He's like, oh, money. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Dad. And he's like, oh, yes, yes, of course. I shower you the most. Here, more 100 gifted. And he's just saying it. Like, he's not actually giving anything. He's just saying it. He's like, I will shower you the most. Here, more 100 gifted. He's a very goofy dad. Okay, he's a... That's actually 500, Dad. I don't know. He's, yeah, ever since then, my love language has always been gift receiving. It does sound very shallow. I know, but it has a lore behind it, I swear. I usually tell people, it's like, oh yeah, my love language is gift receiving. And if they're like, oh my god, Michi, you're so like monetary and shallow, I just agree. I'm like, yeah, I am. I like expensive gifts. I like expensive diamonds and golds and everything else. But like, if I have to be honest, not really. I like the thought. The fact that you thought about me and then you got it for me, it means a lot. But not everyone needs to know that, okay? If I can portray myself as an asshole, I will. I want to seem like a hard ass. It's easier. It's easier to maintain an assholey personality. If you want to be seen as a good person, this is what I figured out. If I act like a good person and someone still doesn't like me, I will feel a bit sad. But if from the start I portray myself as an asshole and people like me, that's a nice surprise. So think about it that way.